Hi, this is Tiffanie Vendries with Grace Realty Group. I have clients that are interested in purchasing a home and they ask or they question how can they save more money in order to have more money for their down payment and their closing costs. So here are 15 ways that you could save some extra money. Number 15, can you take lunch to work with you? So a lot of people, they work from home, so that's great. But if you don't and you go to the office, or even if you're on the road, you're in the field, spending money on lunch can cost you $10 to $15, $20 a day. And when you add that up for the week, that may be $50 to $100, which may be $200 a month. So if you can save that money and put it towards your closing costs over time, you might have an extra $2,000 for a year or $4,000 over the course of 2 years. Number 14 is reduce your priority on name brands. So does it have to be Nike sneakers? Can you get something less expensive to put that money towards your long-term goals? Can you get away with not wearing Coach or Louis or Gucci? Can you just maybe get a 9 West bag or something from another location, maybe just for the short term? Or there are used options online to, if you really need to have those name brands, you can get them used and pay a fraction of the cost. Limit consumption. If you have a goal and you need X amount of money, shopping, jewelry, clothes, shoes, hair, nails, going out to eat, going on vacation, all of these things can maybe take a back seat for a temporary period of time so that you can achieve your goal. Number 12, cable. Cable TV is one where if you combine these with the other steps, you will find that you can save some money. If your cable bill is $200 or more, look into cutting out HBO, Showtime, Cinemax, maybe even ESPN, maybe even Oxygen, maybe just some of those channels, and slim it down so you can save a couple $100 a month, which in over time, it adds up. Okay, number 11 is to eliminate subscription services. So that's your Netflix, your Hulu, even YouTube has a paid subscription. Even maybe the gym, can you run outside? Can you exercise at home? Can you do push-ups? Can you do sit-ups? Can you do things at home so you can pause your gym membership or cancel for a year or two? And all of these things can add up. So you have your cable, you have your gym, you have your less eating out. Before you know it, you're saving $500 a month. And before you know it, you have enough for your closing costs. Tip number 10, another thing to do is shop around for car insurance. You might go to Geico and Geico might say X, and then you go to another Allstate, State Farm, Progressive. They may have $100, $200, $300 difference per month. Or over time, it could be a couple $100 difference. So you definitely want to shop around and check those things out. Tip number 9, track your spending. This is going to help you immensely. So when you are trying to lose weight, they tell you to measure your foods, they tell you to measure your calorie intake and see how much you're working out per day, how much you're taking in per day. The same is true of any goal. And so with your finances, you want to track how much are you spending. You might be surprised that you're spending money in an area you didn't even realize. So once you see it on paper or once you see it in Excel or whatever you choose to use, it's going to help you identify the areas where you can reduce your spending. So tip number 8 is in line with number 9, create a budget. Once you know, okay, I don't want to spend more than $300 a month on groceries, and then figure out how to make that happen. What do you need to do? Do you need to go to Costco? Do you need to go to Whole Foods? probably not Whole Foods. Do you need to go to like a BJ's or something like that, like a wholesale company to get your groceries? What do you need to do? Okay, tip number 7 is to pay off your high interest debt. So if you have credit card debt, and it may sound counterintuitive that you want to save money and then you're going to pay something, but if you can pay off your high interest debt, then in the long run, you're going to save money, because just paying the minimums is costing you more over time. So look at that and pay the higher interest rate debt first. Tip number 6 would be to form a business. Is there something that you can do? Is there some service that you can provide? Because if you can, then you can take advantage of tax savings. Businesses and personal income tax are taxed differently. Businesses do not pay taxes on their expenses. So if you can form a business, it could be anything. You can say, okay, now I'm going to clean pools on the side. Now you have a business, and maybe you can expense some of your expenses so that you can lower your taxable income and save a little bit of money. Tip number 5 is to add an additional stream of revenue. Is there something that you can do? So this kind of goes hand in hand with the starting a business, but it doesn't have to be a business. It can be just a part-time job. Is there something that you can do to bring in extra money, and then you can use that for your savings? Do you qualify for student loan forgiveness? There are certain loans, Stafford loans, Perkins loans, that if you are a government employee or if you work in the service sector, teachers, for example, qualify for loan forgiveness. So make sure you know what kind of student loans you have and see, is there a forgiveness program? Because you could be paying money, $200-300 per month, which you don't need to pay. That would add up over time and add to your savings. Tip number 3. Now we're getting into the larger expenses. So public school versus private school. Do you have kids in private school? If so, maybe look into the public schools in your area. Maybe you can find one, maybe they're not all bad. Maybe you can find one that has a special program, like a medical program, or has a pre-law program, or has a dual enrollment program, or has a dual language program. Maybe you can find a public school maybe that could offer similar things as a private school. Private schools can be $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 per year. So in that area, there's potentials for saving. Or maybe a less expensive private school. If your kids are going to a $20,000 or $10,000 private school, can you find one that's a little less expensive? Maybe just for a year or two until you save to meet your goal. Tip number 2 is daycare. Daycare is one of the highest expenses that a family will typically have. So is there a way that you can stagger schedules between family members so that the child doesn't have to go to daycare? Is there a trusted relative that you can pay to watch your son or daughter? Are there any options? Sometimes there's not. Sometimes the only option is daycare. But is there something? Can you take a different shift? Can you take a different job? Can you move positions within the same company? Can you take on remote position? Some of those things, and just see if there's any flexibility, because daycare can be $1,000 to $2,000 a month, depending on where you live in the country. And that is significant savings if you can save some money there. Number 1, this is where you can save the most money, is going to be your housing. So can you live with a roommate? Can you find a roommate? Can you downsize? Can you go to a smaller place? Can you move to a less expensive city? Can you move in with a relative. And remember, these are short-term sacrifices in order to have and in order to meet your long-term goals. So sometimes there are things we have to give up. And now you have 15 ways to save money. Maybe some of them don't apply. Maybe you don't have kids. Maybe some of them are not, they're non-negotiable. You're not doing it. But maybe some other areas you're able to find ways to save. If you can pull maybe 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 of these saving strategies, then maybe you can save $2,000 to $1,000 a month and have that down payment money when you need it. For more content from Grace Realty Group, remember to like, comment, and subscribe.